If you've ever been told you're too sensitive, this isn't a weakness. It's often a sign of deep emotional awareness, the kind that notices tone before words, energy before actions, and meaning beneath what's said out loud. High emotional sensitivity doesn't mean you feel more than others for no reason. It means your nervous system processes emotional information deeply and quickly, often long before logic steps in. Psychology describes this as heightened emotional perception and empathy. Not a diagnosis, not a flaw, just a pattern shaped over time. For many people, this sensitivity begins early in life, not because something was wrong, but because awareness became a form of safety. Growing up in environments where emotions were unpredictable, unspoken, or overwhelming can train a child to read moods carefully. You learn when to speak, when to stay quiet, when to adjust yourself to keep the peace. Sometimes you're praised for being mature, calm, or understanding beyond your years. What isn't noticed is that this maturity came from constant emotional monitoring. Over time, emotional awareness becomes automatic. As adults, this sensitivity doesn't disappear, it evolves. It shows up in relationships where you can sense shifts before they're named. You may notice when something feels off, even if the other person denies it. At work, you might pick up on tension, expectations, or unspoken dynamics and adjust yourself accordingly. With boundaries, things can feel complicated. You may know exactly what you feel, but struggle to express it without guilt. Internally, there's often a strong emotional memory. Conversations replay. Because of this, emotionally sensitive people are often misunderstood. Sensitivity gets confused with weakness. Emotional depth gets labeled as being dramatic or overreactive. Feeling deeply is treated as a liability instead of a form of intelligence. But sensitivity isn't excess emotion, it's depth of perception. You're not creating feelings out of nothing. You're responding to information others overlook. This is where emotional intelligence comes in. Emotional intelligence isn't just about being kind or empathetic. It's about awareness, regulation, boundaries, and discernment. And while high emotional intelligence is often praised, it can also create emotional distance. When you understand patterns quickly, you may outgrow certain dynamics quietly. When you can regulate yourself, you may stop chasing validation. When you can see emotional responsibility clearly, you may refuse to carry what isn't yours anymore. This can feel lonely, not because you're disconnected, but because your depth doesn't always match the environment around you. Psychology sometimes explains this through something called social mismatch. Simply put, when emotional depth, communication style, or self-awareness don't align between people, connection can start to feel one-sided. You may feel like you're explaining yourself too much or shrinking. To maintain harmony, relationships can become emotionally labor-intensive, not because you care too much, but because you're often the one holding space, regulating and translating feelings. Over time, certain patterns tend to form. Hyper-independence, for example, often looks like I've got it. I don't need help. Even when you're exhausted. It forms because relying on others once felt unsafe or unreliable. In adult life, it can lead to burnout, emotional isolation, and difficulty receiving support. Healthier awareness doesn't mean forcing dependence. It means recognizing that needing support doesn't make you a burden. Fear of being a burden is another common pattern. It looks like minimizing your needs, apologizing for your feelings, or avoiding asking for help altogether. This often forms when your emotions were once too much for others, or when you learned that love was conditional on being easy. In adulthood, it creates silent loneliness. Healthier awareness means understanding that mutual care is part of connection, not an inconvenience. Over-explaining is another familiar pattern. It looks like giving long explanations for simple boundaries, justifying feelings, or trying to make sure everyone understands your intention. This forms when being misunderstood once had consequences. As an adult, it can lead to emotional exhaustion and self-doubt. Healthier awareness means trusting that clarity doesn't require over-defense. Emotional suppression can look like being calm on the outside while everything happens internally. You feel deeply but rarely express it. This often forms when emotional expression wasn't safe or welcomed. Over time, it can lead to numbness or delayed emotional processing. Healthier awareness isn't about exploding emotionally, it's about allowing yourself honest internal acknowledgement without judgment. People-pleasing is another pattern rooted in sensitivity. It looks like prioritizing others' comfort over your own, adjusting your personality, or avoiding conflict at all costs. It often forms when approval felt necessary for connection. In adult life, it can create resentment and identity confusion. Healthier awareness means recognizing that harmony doesn't require self-erasure. None of these patterns mean something is wrong with you. They mean your system adapted intelligently to its environment. The goal isn't to become less sensitive, it's to become more self-aligned. To understand where your awareness is a gift, and where it's being overused in places that don't reciprocate. The truth is, the more emotionally aware you are, the fewer people truly understand you. Not because you're difficult, but because depth isn't universal. And that's okay. You don't need to explain yourself into being accepted. You don't need to shrink your emotions to be loved. Sensitivity isn't something to overcome, it's something to hold with care, boundaries, and self-respect. You are not too much. You are deeply aware. And in the right spaces, that awareness becomes connection, not weight.